Any images that you see on my desktop throughout this will be images that I have rendered either in TrueSpace or Blender 3D. Just FYI, so those are all images of my model, or models, because you will also see the Galileo 7, and some models of various other ships like Balak's ship and so on throughout the making of these videos. Anyway, first, let's make sure you go to blender.org and download the latest version of Blender, which as of the recording of this video is Blender 2.79b. You can get it for Mac or Windows. Just download it and run through the install. If you need help with that, you can either ask any specific questions down below, or there are about a million videos on how to download and install Blender. Also, you'll probably want an image manipulation program. An excellent free image manipulation program is GIMP. We'll be using, pardon me, we'll be using GIMP to create our textures for the ship when we are done with our modeling. Having said all of that, after you have downloaded and installed, this I actually made in Blender, I'm sorry, not Blender, I believe I made this in TrueSpace. Anyway, if you've downloaded and installed Blender, if not, pause this video, go download and install Blender, and then fire it up and join us here. This is Blender 2.79. You'll be downloading Blender 2.79b, but they should be extremely similar. When you are ready to start making a video, making a model, just click on the logo or somewhere else on the screen, and the splash page will go away, and you'll be presented with a 3D work screen, which has a default cube, one camera, and one light source. For our purposes, I am going to... Alright, I'm also going to turn on the screencast keys so you can see exactly what I am pressing when I'm pressing it. Like N gets you in and out of that particular section. We'll be using N again when we go to display background images. Anyway, we do not need all these things to start with, so I'm going to select A to unselect everything, and then A again to select everything that's in this view, X to delete, and then confirm. I'm then going to hit 7 on my keypad to go to a top-down shot, and then 5 to go to an orthographic presentation. As a matter of fact, let's change that. Let's go to 1 for what's called a front ortho. Now, hopefully you have downloaded the blueprints of your choice. As I said, we're going to use Alan Sinclair's spectacular blueprints. So I'm going to go back to N, and we're going to enable background images right here. Put a check mark in the blank box, drop it down, and hit Add Image. So up here on the top left-hand side, you'll see Front Ortho. So we're going to pick, instead of all views, we're going to pick front, and we're going to leave it on image, and then I'm going to go get where I have saved my copy of the fabulous blueprints from Alan Sinclair. Yours is going to be different, no doubt. So Alan Sinclair, and once you get to the directory where you have put your images, up top here you have different ways of displaying them. Here is different kinds of listings, and what I want are images to select from. So I'm going to pick a side shot of the Enterprise. It's the second sheet from what I got. I'm going to leave it at its original size. We can always make changes later or set scales. You can vary how intense you see in other words, what's the opacity of the image. You can make it really bright, although you won't be able to see much in the way of your scale details and so on. So I'm going to leave it at half and half. So you can see the grid lines and reference lines, and we've got this one fairly well-centered for the Enterprise, fairly well-centered shot of the ship. I'm going to change that, and I recommend you do the same. What we're going to do is we're going to set it up so that this cutaway image here, this cutaway section, like a slice right down through the center of the ship, is actually right at the center of our model. And I'm going to use for the center the little point on the sensor dome at the bottom here of the saucer. So we're going to move this until that little nipple on the bottom sensor there is in the center. That's close, but negative 2.5 is too far. So let's go with negative 2.48, and that's pretty centered. Now we're going to bring it down and center this so that the red line kind of goes real close to the top of the hull, because we're actually going to split the model at some point this way. Now I'm going to zoom in here, and that's actually not bad. Pardon me. Okay, so now if view number 1, which it calls the front ortho, I'm using to display the side of the ship. It's just a work habit that I have developed. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to go to number 3 on my keypad, which is kind of to the right of that, like turning that sheet to the left so that you'd be looking at it head on. In other words, that blue line is representative of where we've got our image. So I'm going to add another image. I'm going to minimize the first one here that we did, front. And when you hit 3, you go to a right ortho. So I'm going to pick right here, and we are going to add another image. I'm going to go back to my Alan Sinclair images. I'm going to look for a front shot of the ship, and there certainly is one from Alan Sinclair. It's actually got both the front and the back on the image, and we are going to move this so that, again, the saucer is centered on this line. So this time we're going to move this forward until we get to that center nipple, so to speak, really close, and then we're going to bring it down. And that's close. It's not perfect, but it's close. So we're going to, I'm going to grab this, move it down. And I want to scroll in closer so I can get a little more accurate here. We want to center right on this sensor dome. And that's going to be, let's see here, 0.24, nope, 2.3, and 2.5. So we want something like 2.42 or 2.43. Nice. That's pretty well centered. And I want a little more, a little down further. So let's try negative 1.42. No, not enough. Let's go to negative 1.4. Stop that. 1.45. Wow. All right. We're going to do 1.47. And that's pretty darn close. Okay, cool. Now, the one way to make sure about this is I'm going to go back to 1. And if your Blender has an interesting item, there is a cursor in the center of your, pardon me, in the center of your screen, right in the middle of our reference, right where our blue line, which is actually the z-axis, and our red line, the x-axis, intersect. That's this right here. And they refer to it, I believe, as a 3D cursor. Anything that I add, if I want to add something, wherever that cursor is, should be where the item is added. So we're going to add an object just to make sure that we are centering everything and that all the images are to the correct scale. So I'm going to go to Object. I'm going to click on Add. Add over here, and then Mesh. And for right now, I want, well, we can do it with a cylinder. Okay. So as I said, pardon me. So as I said, the cylinder got added right at that 3D cursor. There's a couple of things wrong, however. There's very few sides on this. So I'm going to take this and highlight vertices over here. And I'm going to type in 100. Now, we're not going to use this as actually a part of the model, but at least it's got a higher resolution. I'm going to tell it to smoothly shade, and then we're going to run over here to this little icon here. It looks like a wrench. This is where you can add modifiers, and we are going to do what's called edge split. And just apply. All right, so now, edge split means when smooth got applied, it got applied to everything, including the edges. And we don't necessarily want that. We want the edges to be sharp for right now. It's also nice to show you where those modifiers are. Anyway, so now we've got a cylinder, and it is obscuring our background image. So what you want to do is, with your cursor in the screen, hit the letter Z on your keyboard. Now, that makes your objects basically transparent. You can see the vertices and the edges that make up your objects, and we're going to scale this down in the Z axis so that it's nice and thin. Basically, we want it as thin as the saucer. And I'm going to grab that object by pressing G on my keyboard and then again limiting it to Z, and I want to bring it down to where it's about centered to this lip out here. Now, I'm going to scale this up, so we're going to hit S for scale and pull out with our mouse until we get to that edge here. So you'll notice it's centered correctly because we centered our image earlier, right? And then we scaled this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this, the front of the saucer to the center of my screen. I'm going to scroll in, and wow, what do you know? It's almost perfect. I'm going to hit S for scaling again. This time I'm going to bring it in a little bit right up until we hit that front edge. Now here's a neat trick. We're going to zoom out till we can see the whole thing. So this isn't perfect. I mean, we've got a cylinder, we've got it scaled out to the right size for the saucer. As a matter of fact, if you look down below the screen, I could just grab that cylinder, pull it down, you could see that it would fit front to back on our plans here. But the top isn't going along the top of this saucer, and neither is the bottom. Plus, there's this pardon me, angle that we want to match. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to edit parts of this. When you hit the tab key, you tab between the edit mode and the object mode, where you can move objects around. So I want to not move the object around anymore. What I want to do is I want to move the parts of the object around. So I'm going to show you what this means. I'm going to roll around here. So now you can see that this is a 3D object. We don't see any of our background image anymore, but you can get a sense that this is like a large film canister from the old days, if you remember that, or a very large coin. So to go back to my projection, just going to hit 1 on my keypad. I'm going to hit A on my keyboard in order to deselect everything. Now I'm going to hit the letter B, like brown, so that I can draw a box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight just the upper section. I'm going to make sure that I've got it from left to right, that I've got all those little vertices selected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this blue here, or I could hit grab on my keyboard, G and then Z, but you don't have to since we've got something selected and there's this arrow here. We haven't turned it off, which you can. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to bring it down to where I think the line is. Now here's the great thing. Let's go Shift and center mouse key to move this front of the saucer towards the center of our screen. Scroll in. And now I am going to use G for grab, and we're going to restrict the grab to the Z axis. So I'm going to hit Z on my keyboard. Then if I move up and down, you can actually see that I can only move in the up and down direction. What I really want to do is I want to be right here at that pixel where my cursor is. I'm not there yet. So I'm going to do G, Z, move it back up so I'm skimming the top. And then I'm actually going to scale this out just a tiny little bit, scale, and pull it out just a tiny bit. Okay, cool. Now, we're going to scroll back out and just recenter just to show you what I'm doing here. Now, I don't need to add any more images at the moment. We'll be adding more images later on. So I'm going to hit N on my keyboard to give myself more screen space. I'm going to hit T to get rid of that other border on the left-hand side. So now this is much bigger. I can even scroll. I can even move this left and right because I don't need a lot of other details right now. What I do want to show you is hitting A on the keyboard deselects everything. I'm going to position my cursor in between the top and bottom vertices. I'm going to hit B on my keyboard again, select all the lower vertices, right? I can grab that blue arrow now and skim the bottom or get close. Now what I want to do is I want to move over here, scroll in. Okay, I'm definitely skimming the bottom. But also what I want to do now is I want to just scale this. So I'm going to hit S and scale it in until we're kind of matching that angle. All right, so the angle is good, but I need to select everything. So A to deselect everything, A again to select it all. I'm going to hit S to scale the thing. And now I'm skimming the top, the bottom, and the front of the saucer. So A to deselect everything, Tab to get out of it. I've now got a cylinder with the correct angle for the outside of the saucer section. The top and bottom meet the flat parts of the saucer. Now these are moderately complex, called compound convex curves. So we're going to learn how to do those. It's completely different. If you really wanted to, I guess you could block out the enterprise using spheres, cubes, cylinders, and so on. And that's what I'm doing right now for a check, because we've got this so that it matches the side. And we're going to hit 3 on our keyboard and look and see if we match here. And we do. It's perfect. We've got left and right are skimming the outside of the blueprint. The top and the bottom of the flat section of the saucer are in perfect place. As a matter of fact, what the heck? Let's hit 7 on our keyboard. Okay, so we've got the topmost section of the saucer here, and the inmost one is the bottom. Yeah, I could prove that to you by doing that. Now that we've got the top being displayed, we're going to hit N on our keyboard. We're going to minimize this right image. We're going to add another image. And this time, we're going to go to, instead of all views, we're going to pick top. And then go to wherever you have your Sinclair or whoever's blueprints. And I'm going to pick a shot of the top of the model, and I want it to go left to right, left to right. That's the bottom. That's the top, but it's rotated in the wrong direction. I'm sure that's wrong. Hang on. I had to actually make a flipped version of his top image, so I'm going to open that. And we're going to go through the same routine that we did before. We're going to center this section of the image. Alan has a very nice cross-section right in the center of the saucer, which we are going to use to place right at our 3D cursor. And if you've moved the 3D cursor, by the way, here I'm going to deselect everything, Shift S, and just pick cursor to center, and your cursor will go right back to the very middle of your viewing of your modeling area. Anyway, using the location buttons. Let's get this centered up. Oh, actually, that was really close to perfect. And we're going to move up this time. Okay, and shift middle mouse key to move this to the center of our screen, and then scroll in. Okay, so this isn't quite perfect, but by golly, it is close. So this looks like negative 2.7 was not quite far enough. So negative 2.71. Oh, is too far. Negative 2.7. See if we can do a 0.5 here. Too much. Okay, so we can, but let's make that a 3. And, well, I'm going to make it a 2. But that's just about as much as you can ask for. And this 0.9 is too high. 0.8 is way too low. So we're going to do, instead of 0.9, we're going to do 0.89. No, we're going to do 0.88. How close are we? Really, really close. So 0.75. How about 0.76? Ta-da! Again, that's about as close as you can ask. And the nice thing about this is, again, it confirms our scale is correct. We've got the our saucer, our temporary saucer cylinder is meeting that blueprint nicely. All right, so 7 shows you a top view, the way we've got this set up. 1 shows you a side view. 3 shows it from the front. So we're going to do a little more. We're going to finish setting up our views. Control 7 shows us from the bottom. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go in, we're going to minimize this, we're going to add an image. We're going to pick bottom. Where are you? All views, nope, bottom. We're going to open up an image, go back to where we're keeping our Sinclair images, click on the thumbnails to give us an idea of what we're looking at, and then grab a bottom view that's in the correct orientation. All right, marvelous. Oh, and by the way, if you're using Windows and you've got to flip around copies of your Alan Sinclair images because you want to match what I'm doing, you can actually do that in Paint. Now, there's a rotate, there's a 180-degree rotate. Pick it, save it with a different name, like flipped, which is what I did, so that you're not overwriting your original images, and then you can set up your images here. So I'm going to center this again as close as I can with big keystrokes, and then come in here. So we're fairly close, but we want to center up on this. So 2.7 was just a little too much. Let's make that 6.9 and see if we're a little closer. All right, not bad. Let's try 6.7. Close. 6.6. Almost perfect. 6.6.3. 6.6.2 maybe. Alrighty, and then to center up top and bottom, 1.1 was too much, so let's try 1.05. Oh, almost. Let's try 1.06. Okay, let's split the difference in 1.055. All right, that's about as good as that's ever going to get. So we've got a bottom view, that's Control 7. Top view is 7. Side view is 1. Front view is 3. Back view is Control 3, just like the Control 7 for the top. So we're going to minimize this. We're going to add an image. We're going to restrict this to left ortho, like it says on the top left-hand side of the screen, in case you've forgotten. We're going to open up that same front and back image in our Sinclair library. So that was, where are you, front and back image? Here we are. Open up. And this time we're going to center on the back over here. So we're going to move this over. And down. We're going to zoom in. Now this is a little hard to do, but we're going to center on this center grid line up here and use this, pardon me, and use this little divot. It's actually like a half of a ping pong ball. So cut a ping pong ball in half and then look at the hole. And that's actually a scooped out section there. We're going to go to negative 2.42. Oh, look at that. Right first time. We're going to try and make this top and bottom match the top and, the top and bottom here. So negative 1.50. Not quite enough. 1.55. Oh, too much. Negative 1.45. Too much in the other directions. Let's go to negative 1.47. Try 1.473. And again, that's about as good as you can ask for. All the views except for a port view have been set up. We are now free to make our saucer. So I'm going to go back out to the side view, which has this really lovely outline and center spot for us. I'm going to highlight my temporary saucer. I'm going to hit X and delete it. Okay, great. So now we're not going to add any more images for now. So I'm going to get rid of N, that little extra window. This gives us more space. We can fill this, so we use this image and fill the screen, get a little more accuracy. And now we're going to add what's called a spline. A spline is a series of points that flows organically. It's very, very smooth depending on how many vertices that you add. So I'm going to actually expand this just a little bit here. And I'm going to add. And where it says we're going to skip mesh, we're going to go to curve, and we're going to add a Bezier curve. Now, here's the thing. We could add a mesh. We could do this with a plane. So, matter of fact, what the heck, I'll show it. When you add something, however, especially a flat object like a plane, it's actually going to be on what the 3D software thinks of as the floor. And you can see the floor. If I hit 7, we're looking straight down at the floor, right? So there it is. When we're looking at it from the side, the floor corresponds to that XYZ center where we've got our cursor centered. So I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to tell it to rotate this, and I'm going to type in a 9 and a 0, 90 degrees, go back to my first orientation. This is perfectly centered up. I'm going to tab into edit mode, A to deselect everything. I'm going to hit B and select 2 of my vertices. Actually, let's Actually, what I'm going to do is I am going to select the bottom 2 vertices. You'll see why in just a moment. Hit X to delete them and pick vertices. So now I've got 2 vertices. Later on, we'll talk about object centering and everything. However, not pertinent at the moment. I'm going to hit A to select all my vertices, G just to grab the thing and move it around. And I'm going to, pardon my cough, I'm recovering from a cold. I'm going to align the top vertice with the very top center of the saucer. And matter of fact, what the heck? Let's scroll in, make this as accurate as we can. All right, so I'm going to grab, and I want to move this only in the X direction. I don't want to go up or down. So I hit X on my keyboard after G and center that up as close as I can to 0. And that's as far zoomed in as I can get, and that little vertex is right on the center line, so that's great. I'm going to scroll back out with my mouse, and now this is far too big, but I'm going to deselect everything by typing A. I'm going to, now I could type B and select this vertex, or I can hover over it with my cursor and click it with my right mouse key. And I'm going to grab just that. Hey, what happened? Somehow I deleted it. I don't think I hit X. Anyway, I'm hitting my one remaining vertice, the one that's perfectly centered where I want it. I'm going to hit E to extrude. I'm going to hit X so that it only goes left and right. And I'm going to move it out here to where things start to change, where the hull starts to curve. So if I wanted to, I could use a single vert or a single line, pardon me, highlight one vertex, and then hit E to extrude that vertex, and then move my extruded vertex out a little bit and start going down. E, and start going down, and E, and start going down. And sometimes I actually do prefer to do this, but in this case, I'm just making things harder for myself. So I'm going to tab out to my object mode. I'm going to hit X to delete that line that we started with as a plane. The reason why I did that is instead of deleting all the vertices, I also got rid of the center of the object by deleting the object and not just the verts. Anyway, we're going to go back to Add. We're going to skip Mesh. We're going to go up to Curve, and we're going to hit Bezier Curve. We're going to do the same thing we did with the plane, because if I go to top view, you can see that there's actually a curve with this. I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to tell it to rotate. I'm going to tell it to rotate 90 degrees. Actually, I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees so that the curve is up. Go to 1. Now I've got a curve, and as a matter of fact, it's actually not too bad for the ship. You've actually got this down section, kind of like the front part, and you've got this top section here. Now, I'm going to hit T just to show you, because I rotated this. Actually, no, wait a minute, hang on. Let's go over here. Once I've got a curve added, let's get rid of, let's bring T back for a moment. There's now a Bezier curve section, or a curve section over here. Let's highlight that. You can see preview and render. That's the resolution of the thing. So I'm going to say preview, let's make it 20, and render, let's make it 20. So suddenly the line is slightly smoother. I can grab this just like I did my earlier object, and I can place it wherever the heck I want. I'm going to put it somewhere near my Alan's lovely drawing here of the top section of the saucer. Now I want to edit this, so I'm going to hit Tab just like I would have with the plane. I'm going to right mouse click to pick the leftmost vertex. So if I tab in and out, you can see that that's the end of the line right there. That's the end vertex. I'm going to grab that without any other constraints, and I'm going to place it where I want to start. So now here are handles that you can select, and these are great for, so I'm going to hit this rightmost one. I'm going to hit G for grab, and I'm just going to move this down, and I'm going to pull it out until my spline here kind of matches the upper section of Alan's drawing. It doesn't really matter what goes on in the back here, not right now. Now I'm going to reach out here to this other end vertex, and I'm going to make sure that it's in the right spot. So it's pretty much. So that's good. Whoops. Now, this section does not match. All right, so I'm going to grab this end. I'm sorry, a right mouse click to select that handle. I'm going to G for grab it, and then I'm going to move it a little bit towards the center, and I don't want to move it down too much because I want it to stay on this line here as much as is reasonable. I'm going to go back, grab this other handle, grab it, and then, okay, so this is reasonable. It's not perfect, but I'll show you something else that we can do when we are done with this. All right, so now we've got a fairly good curve, moderately accurate. And I'm going to click this vertex here. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to grab this handle end. Grab. I'm going to try not to move it too much. Okay, but I do want to make it shorter, and I'll show you why here. Let's try and maintain that angle there. I'm not maintaining very well. Grab this and move it back. Okay, so I've pretty closely adhered to Alan's drawing here. It's not exactly perfect, but again, like I said, I'll show you some tricks that we can use to clean that up. Now I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to grab this vertex, not the end handle, grab the vertex and move it down. Now we'll have to go back later on and we'll have to correct sections of this because this is not flat. But that's not important at the moment. What is important is I want to hit E to extrude, and I get a whole another add-on to this Bezier curve. Now, what I want to do, so I want to flip this around. So I'm going to grab the handle, and it retains an awful lot of what we did before. Now this is the other handle, so I don't necessarily want to mess with that. I want that end vertex. So I'm going to grab that. Wow. Let's scoot in here. I'm going to grab this handle. I'm going to move it down so it's real small. Grab this vertex and move this in. So we want this to end right where this straightish edge begins. So now I've got this weird loop here, but I can control that by grabbing the end of the handle and shortening it. So now we've got a nice curve, and the line is is heading out to where we want. Now, I could do another Bezier curve down to here. We're not going to at the moment. We're going to hit Tab, and we're going to look at our results here. So we're pretty close. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean up what I was talking about before. So now we've got this curve, and it's good, but it's not great. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Object, Convert to Mesh from Curve. All right, so now if I hit Tab again, it's no longer got those handles. Each vertex is now a spot that I can move. So we're going to go up here. We're going to work left to right. And we're going to grab these one at a time. I'm going to grab this one here, which is not really perfectly centered. We're going to move it over so that it's pretty darn close there and move it up. Now I'm going to grab this one and move it down. All right, so now it's skimming the top of the drawing. Skimming the top of the drawing. That one's up there. That's probably pretty good. This one actually needs to come up a little. Up. Let's make that a little smoother. Right? Now we've got to correct these. Whoops. All right, I moved my center, so again, Shift S, cursor to center, get that out of the way. Grab this next vertex. Oh, and to move the screen, Shift, middle mouse click, move the vertex that you're working on either to the center of the screen or closer to the left so we can get more of our vertices lined up. Right mouse click to select any particular vertex. Move it into place. I'm not moving it left or right. I just want to make it match the curve of Alan's hull drawing as best as I can. Okay. All right, so now drawing becomes, this section of the drawing becomes flat. So what I want to do is I could move all of those independently, or I can highlight this one, hold down the Shift key, so right mouse click on one vertex, right? Shift, right mouse click, Shift, right mouse click, and then what the heck here, Shift, right mouse click. Now, we're going to use a shortcut to make these all exactly level. We're going to scale them, S, in the Z direction, and type 0 on the top of the keyboard and hit enter. If you're paying real close attention, you may have noticed that the clock down here on my desktop changed a little bit. That's because my cat told me he required attention. I had to go clean his litter box. Anyway, I'm going to move. Now, I have not deselected those verts because I want to make a final change. I want to scroll in here towards the lip, which we've already got. And of course, those vertices that I want are already selected, and only those vertices, because I haven't hit A yet or anything. I do want to hit G to grab them, Z to restrict their motion to up and down, and I want to bring them in line with just leading into this curve. So they're just slightly higher than the curve. Of course, I could grab Z and make them exactly even with that curve, but I want to lead into it just slightly. Okay, so now A to deselect everything, A to select everything again, make it really visible. I'm going to scroll out, and we're going to take a look at our work here. Not bad at all. We've got a line of vertices that are running out from left to right that correspond to the upper hull curve of Alan Sinclair's excellent drawings. The only thing that I might suggest is, and what the heck, this is a good learning experience here, I'm going to hit A to deselect everything. There are simply too many vertices here. I don't really require all that many. So let's start here, because I don't want to delete any here. And I'm going to pick with a control key and a right mouse click. Oh, it doesn't like that. Huh. Sorry. So that's a shift and a right mouse click. I'm going to pick every other vert. So I didn't need quite so many. Now I'm going to hit X to delete those vertices. And we're going to right mouse click to select one, shift right mouse click to select a second, and then F on our keyboard to create what's called a face. That's just creating a line, an edge as they call it. F, shift F, click, shift, click F, click, shift, whoops. That was a shift F. I don't want that. I think I just right mouse click. Yeah. Okay, so shift, click, F, click, shift, click, F, click, shift, click, F, shift, click, shift, F, and A. Okay, so now I've still got a nice curve there that kind of matches the drawings, the plans. I'm going to hit right mouse click the last vert, and I'm going to hit E to extrude it and grab it and move it down here to where this curve just about begins. All right, move that right there. All right, so now that's not bad. As a matter of fact, if I really want to, actually, you know what? I want to bring this in a little closer. Deselect it. B, select all these verts and just move them in a tiny fraction. All right, cool. I like that a lot. I think it's very good. Okay, so we're going to deselect this, tab out of it, and deselect everything so that, oh, and here is the object's center for our original curve. So we haven't moved the center, but we've moved the vertices a lot. And we've still got our center here. And now we're going to add another Bezier curve. So add curve, Bezier, 3 to see it from the front, rotate 90, right? 1 to go back to the side view, G to grab it, move it in place, and what the heck, rotate 180. All right, great. So now we're going to try and create either this part of the curve or this part of the curve. I don't want to do both all at once, I don't think. So let's just tab, grab one end. I'm going to move it here, pretty close to where we've ended. It doesn't have to be perfect yet, but pretty close to where we ended our extruded vert. Okay? So it's pointed in the wrong direction. I'm going to grab a handle, spin it around, and then I'm going to grab this other end. And we're going to move it, say, here. All right, so that's the center of this curve. I'm going to grab one handle for this because it's way out too far. Bring it in a little closer. Grab, let's see if we can move this here. Grab this handle. All right, not too shabby. Scroll in, grab this handle. All right, see if we can move this here. All right, so I'm going to have to grab this handle here. And it looks like I'm going to have to actually, we're not going to do so many compound curves all at once. We'll move this here. Grab this handle. Grab this handle. All right, so now we've created something that fairly closely adheres to this section. So I want to scroll in more. Matter of fact, I'm going to grab this handle and we're going to bring it down. Okay, I'm going to grab that handle and make it kind of match this angle. And then grab this and bring this handle down. Try not to mess up that angle too much. This doesn't actually have to be here. So we can move this down into the curve a little bit. Grab. Okay, so we've got the outline of this section here. This needs to be corrected a little. Grab. Wow. All right, so I'm going to grab this hot dog. And I'm just going to place it at the end of the flat section at the bottom of the saucer. Grab this. Grab this. You know what? I'm just going to... Actually, you know what? I don't do this part with a Bezier. Hang on. I'm being an idiot. X, delete. Okay, cool. That's fine. Actually, we just need one curve. So, I'm going to go back. Well, dag with it. I've deselected everything. We're going to use this center curve again. Shift A and add a mesh. Only we're going to make it a circle. Now, when you add a mesh, you can change, say, how many vertices and so on are in a particular mesh. Now, I could increase this, decrease this. Matter of fact, let's make this a 60. We're not going to use much of it. So I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. Go back to my left, well, front to ortho. I'm going to grab this circle. I'm going to move it till it's centered kind of at that center curve. I'm going to hit S on my keyboard and scale it down. But this is not perfect. What I want is I want to try and match this gradual curve here. So I'm going to scale X and just scale it this way a little bit so that it's not, so it's an oblate curve, right? I'm going to rotate this a little. I'm going to grab it and move it into place. And that's the curve I want. That's exactly the curve I want. Okay, so we're going to tab to edit this, A to deselect all, and then I don't want anything past this vertice. So I'm going to hit A to deselect it, B, grab as much as I can to the left, and what the heck, X on my keyboard, delete vertices, that's gone. Now, I only need from this vertice down, so I'm going to deselect everything with A, B, grab that vertice, B, grab these center vertices. I don't want any of them. X on my keyboard, vertices, it's gone. All right. So now this isn't necessarily perfect. I'm going to grab all the verts. I'm going to zoom in. Oh, you know what? I don't even need this one. X, vertice, gone. All right, so now this and this are really close. So I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to kind of align, grab this, and align it with the end of that. Not bad. Not bad at all. So now we want this curve and this top curve all to become one item. So I'm going to hit, so the bottom curve is already selected. I'm going to hit Shift, hit the top curve. Now they are both selected. I'm going to hit Control and then tap the J key, and they are all one item now. But there is still a gap. So I'm going to hit Tab, and you'll notice we've got two vertices virtually on top of each other here. So I'm going to click this first one from the top, which I like. I want to keep that angulation. I'm going to hold Shift down on my keyboard. I'm going to right mouse click the other vertice, second, and then I'm going to, I think it's Alt M, and I'm going to have them meet at the first one that I selected. Bing. So it moved it a little bit, A. And so now I've got the curve that I want at the bottom, and it just skims the bottom, but maybe what I'll do is B to select all of these, although there is another way, by the way. Another way is hitting C like Charlie, and you can increase or decrease a single click selection for multiple vertices or a single vertice. And I'm going to grab that and move it just slightly up. And there we go. Okay, so that's got, I want to move it just maybe out, just a tad. Okay, great, A. So now if I hit Tab and take a look, excellent, excellent. This is adhering nicely to Alan's drawing. And now we can use Bezier curves for the remainder, okay? All right, great. So we're going to deselect this for right now. We're going to Shift A. We're going to hit Curve, Bezier curve, go to 3, rotate it 90 degrees, go to 1, grab it and move it in place. Right around here. What the heck? Rotate 180, not that it makes a difference. Grab, and there we are. Okay, so now I don't have to have it meet because this is a flat section. So let's hit Tab, grab this end, literally G for grab. I'm going to put that right here. Grab this handle, make it short, grab this end. Where are you? There you are. Grab and bring it in here. Let's see if we can make it that whole curve. Okay, so I'm going to grab this handle. And I've got this section of the curve fairly well lined up. Grab this handle. And do I want to make it? I want to make it shorter. Well, I've got it lined up here. So let's take this, grab, move it to the center of this section, grab this handle. There we go. That's a little, whoops. That's a little better. All right, so we're going to just make one section of the curve, this curve here, and into the center, into the flat spot on the bottom. So that's pretty good. That's a little better. Just kind of want it to skim the bottom of the line drawing. Okay, not too shabby. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this end. Oh, here, let me grab that and move that end of the handle shorter. I probably moved it up a little. All right, cool. So that's not too bad. We're going to grab this last spot that will eventually become a vertex anyway. We're going to do that E for extrude again, and we're going to bring this down here. All right, so now I'm going to grab a handle and bring it up so that we start to match this curve. Grab this handle and grab it, pull it out. So we are pretty much skimming along the bottom. Grab this. So we make it match fairly closely. Okay, great. That's not bad. And of course, we can always go through and we can correct individual vertices if we want. We're going to do one more extrude. We just want to somehow hit the bottom here. I want this to be flat. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to make the red line perfectly straight from what I can see from left to right. I'm going to grab it and move it in a little bit, and then I'm going to grab this handle and we're going to pull it in and make it adhere as closely as we can to that curve. Actually, all that's necessary is that it get down to right about here. Okay, so sadly, I've got to make some corrections here. And then maybe grab this. We'll correct that later. This isn't bad. But this needs to be corrected. Okay, overall not too bad. We'll make some general corrections here in a minute. So we're going to tab out of it. We're going to go to Object, Convert, and we're going to convert to a mesh from our curve. So now all those handles are gone. If we hit Tab again, we are left with nothing but individual vertices. Okay, great. So they are generally in place where we want them. We're going to make some individual corrections. Get them to just skim along the drawing. Luckily, they are very close to where they need to be. Yeah, it's not bad. Lots of individual minor corrections. Just going up and down. I don't want any major movements of these verts. Now, I probably want to add a vertice between these two because there's a big jump there. So I'm going to highlight this and this, these two different vertices. I'm going to go over here to the left. If you don't see the left-hand side, that's T like Tom, and there's a subdivide. What do we get? We get a vertice right in the middle. I'm going to move that up a tad, and actually I goofed. And I just moved our center 3D cursor, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to Shift S, cursor to center, and we're back to modifying our verts. So bring that down so it just skims the outside, skims the outside, skims the outside, skims the outside, all the way down. That's pretty good. That'll do. Maybe it won't do. Okay, so I just need to get into the curve, and the curve ends there. So the rest of these, I'm going to want to keep one of them, like say this vertex. So we're actually going to grab all but that last one. I want to keep this one here, but I want to delete all of these. So X vertices delete. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to move it down so that it's matching this vertex, and I'm going to move it over to the center line here. Now, just, okay, all right. So tab, and now we've got this upper section, this lower section, they don't quite meet. So I've got the bottom one highlighted. I'm going to hold Shift and right mouse click on the top, Control J. That joins them and makes them a single object. I'm going to hit T for tab. Zoom in here. I'm going to highlight this vertex, hold down Shift, click this vertex, F for face. The two sets are now joined. And then what's more important, hit A to deselect everything, and then I want to click this top vertex and this bottom vertex, shift click so that they are both the same. And we're going to do that trick I showed you earlier. We're going to scale X 0. They are now exactly above each other. They're perfectly in line, top and bottom. All right. Now, we are almost ready to actually spin the thing and make a saucer, with one exception. There's actually a detail that was shown in the AMT models. There are actually 3 rings that are cut into the bottom saucer. So I'm going to show you how to make that. But in order to do so, I want Alan's line drawing of the saucer that where it shows those cutouts. It shows 2 of them at the very least. Third one is actually pretty much in line with the bottom of the saucer here. And I want to move this image up. So I'm going to hit N. Whoops. N on my keyboard. And I want the front ortho. And we're going to move up. Whoops. Move up the image, the background image, until the outline matches here. So I want something like 2.8, negative 1.28. Oh, I'd say that's just about perfect. Maybe 1.282. 3. Don't know if it's making a difference. All right, that's good enough. Is it good enough for the likes of me? All right. And I'll show you another trick in a minute. All right, so now I'm going to hit Tab and A so that I am not editing that mesh anymore, at least not yet. We're going to Shift A, add a mesh. And this time I want that circle again. So we're going to go to, well, we are going to go to 3, but we're going to reduce this number of vertices down. The original was 32. I think even that's too much. We're going to make it 16 vertices. So to show you what that means, I'm going to go to 7. So it's really a crude circle. Let's go to 3, rotate 90, make sure that everything is in the center. So these are all aligned. All these things, our circle and our Bezier curves and everything, are all in the same plane. So I'm going to go to 1, grab, and I'm going to center it where one of these horizontal lines meets our outline for the hull. And I'm going to scale this down, and I'm going to zoom in. This is where it's going to seem ridiculous. I'm going to, pardon me, I'm going to scale this circle so that it is no larger than that line. Scale, scale, zip, 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 zip. All right. So now it's pretty darn small. All right. I'm going to make that match and come out here. Okay, good. So now there's one. Shift D duplicates it. I'm going to move a second one up here. Shift D duplicates it. I'm going to move it up here. Now, we're going to go to our bottom view. So that's Control 7. See, this isn't perfect yet. So I'm going to move this until it meets that line. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3 of these. If I rotate, you can actually see them. I'm going to go back out to 1, and I'm going to bring this up and make it meet our curve. Okay, great. So now, down here, we know that this one is centered correctly. If I grab this and move it left and right, it's right on that line. And there it meets our curve. So I'm going to put that in the center of my screen. I'm going to zoom in very close. And I'm going to hit Tab. All right, great. So now it's not perfect. Tab, grab, and I'm going to move it here so that the center of the object is right on the line. And it should still be in line with this, and it is. Okay, great. And what I want to do is I want to rotate this. So I'm going to hit R, and I want to rotate it so that an angle here and an angle here meet with the line of our whole curve, right? And I'm going to hit Tab. So now all of these are selected. We're going to hit A to deselect them. And then I want, let's hit C. And I'm going to left mouse click and select all of these verts that are outside this line. And I'm going to hit X to delete them. Goodbye vertices. Okay, great. So now I'm going to Tab. And I'm going to, so our circle is selected. I'm going to Shift select our great big mesh. I'm going to Control J, Tab to go into edit mode. So now this is a part of this overall mesh. And I've got a line, a straight line for the hull that's running here, and I don't need this line. I'm going to show you a trick. We're going to go down here. We're going to pick edges. We're going to pick that edge. We're going to hit X and delete the edge, not the verts, the edge. Okay, great. We're going to go back to verts. And now, because we know that these two vertices were on the line, we're going to pick one edge of our bigger overall curve, Shift click the matching vert end, F for face, and then do the other side. Right mouse click that vertice, Shift click the next one, F for a face, A to deselect everything, and now that circle is now a part of our overall mesh. And we're going to do the same here and here. So let's highlight one of them, center on it, zoom in, make that center dot meet the line. Perfect. Now we want to rotate until two joins, two vertices, one here, one here. If I hit Tab, you'll notice a dot here, a dot here. Okay, so I'm going to Tab, A to deselect, C to select all of these external vertices, X to delete the vertices, Tab, Shift, right mouse click, Control J. They're all part of the same mesh now. Tab, I'm going to go to Edge, select this edge, X to delete the edge, and then go back to vertices, and we're going to join this and this vert with an F, join this vert and this vert with an F for face, A to deselect them, Tab, and now we've got two. One more, and then we get to something actually moderately exciting. All right, so we're going to zoom in on this. I'm going to only move up and down because we already know that it's aligned properly. That center is now pretty much centered on that line. Okay, good. We're going to rotate until two joints, two corners are lined up with the mesh. Tab, deselect, C to select individual vertices, X to delete those vertices, tab out, Control J, I'm sorry, Shift J, I apologize, Control J to join the things, tab, we're going to go to edge mode, select that edge, delete the edge, go back to vert mode, pick the leading vert on both the circle and the mesh. F to join them with a face. Do the same on the other side. F. And now we've got the 3 cutouts that belong in the model. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit, get rid of that. Matter of fact, what the heck? I'm going to subdivide, add another joint here, make that a slightly smoother transition. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so now, pardon me. So we've got our basic outline of the saucer, but it's just, if I zoom around here, it's just an outline, and it's an outline of only half. And the center for the whole thing is like right in the middle of all of that mess. What I want to do is I want to highlight this. Actually, you know what? This center cursor is pretty much right in line with this vert and this vert, so that's fine. The actual center is right here, but this is close enough. What I want to do is tab. So now I've got an object. This what was a set of splines is now a single object. And I believe it's Shift, Control, Alt, C. And I can move the origin. So I want to move the origin to my 3D cursor. So the origin, the center of this outline is directly in line with the top vert and bottom vert, the beginning and end vertice of this outline. Great. After all of this work, you probably want to save before we go any further. So go to File, Save As, and I'm going to call this a tutorial saucer here. And hit Save as a Blender file. Okay, great. It's going to take a second because I've got it hooked up to an external hard drive, but whatever. Yours will probably be a lot quicker. I'll pause it. We'll come back. Oh, I didn't even have to pause. Okay, great. So now we are ready to make at least a half a saucer. I'll show you why in a minute. But with this outline selected, we're going to hit Tab, A to either deselect or A, and then A again, or just A to select all the vertices in our outline. Then we're going to hit 7 to go to the top view. I'm going to scroll out a little bit. So we're looking at the top. We're going to spin this so that it makes a semicircular object for us. We're going to do half of the hull. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the left. If you don't see these keys over here, T like Tom brings them into view. We really we're not going to change our graphic in the background, so we can hit N to get rid of this over here on the right. We've selected all of our vertices in our outline, and we're going to hit Spin. Now, first, let's go to angle, and let's make that 180. It's good. It's half the saucer, but it's very low in resolution. So where it says steps, we're going to take that and we're going to make it 100 steps, and suddenly we've got something that looks nice and smooth, at least this far. We're going to Tab, and then we're going to hit Z, and we're going to take a look at our saucer. Okay, so it's showing little steps here because we haven't told it that we want it to be smooth. So I'm going to Tab, A to deselect that line A to reselect everything, and hit, oh, not smooth yet. We'll tab out and hit smooth shading. Okay, great. Unfortunately, it tends to make, like here, makes this look like a inner tire. We don't want that. So we're going to come back over here to our modifiers and drop this sucker down, and we're going to do what we did before. We're going to hit edge split, and that actually looks much better. There's something weird going on here. We have normals to worry about right now. So some normals are facing out, that's this lighter area, and some normals are facing in. So we're going to apply that modifier, and we're going to tab, make sure everything is selected. I believe it's under mesh. Normals, recalculate outside. You'll notice it has shifted in color. I'm going to tab out, and now we have 1/2 of the saucer of the USS Enterprise. I'm going to hit 3 and go to a front view. I'm going to go back to the modifier section, and I'm going to mirror this. Now, it doesn't immediately show anything that we want. I don't want it mirrored in the X direction or the Y direction. I want it mirrored in the Z direction. So if we go to a top view, side view, front view, it actually looks pretty good. It adheres to the outline that Alan drew, and you now have the saucer top of the USS Enterprise. We haven't cut in any windows or anything. I'm going to split this into, this is going to be a 4-part section just to create the saucer, the general saucer here. Now, later on I'll show you how to apply that, but we want to make cuts on the top. We don't want to have to do 4 of them. If we just do cuts on the top for some of the lights and so on, it will duplicate everything over here. So we'll have to be careful. We don't want everything duplicated. This is a pretty good start. So I'm going to end this right here. That's saucer tutorial 1 through 4, maybe 1 through 5, and we'll pick up with the next tutorial.